Welcome to Tuesday, the third day of September 2024. Your Day with a Podcast brought to you by ConverseCountyTourism.com. Beautiful landscapes, historic sites, and unique downtowns await visitors to Douglas and Glen Rock, Wyoming. Plan your visit at ConverseCountyTourism.com. Well, there's a bit of a change coming. We saw a little bit in the way of some weak shower and thunderstorm activity in the region yesterday. It didn't produce much, but it did change things up a bit from the stretch of warm, dry weather that many areas had. As we work our way through today and into Wednesday, showers and thunderstorms will increase. A combination of a little bit of subtropical moisture and a Pacific cool front and trough will work in unison. That's going to cool things off tomorrow and Thursday in particular. And the chances of showers and thunderstorms are pretty good, especially tomorrow in many areas. Then cooler, drier air overspreads the area Thursday, so that'll push the thunderstorm threat more to the south and east into the Midwest by Thursday, but Wednesday into Thursday morning showers may linger. Now we go right back to warm, dry high pressure in the west by the weekend. What we're going to see is high pressure in the west again, low pressure in the central and eastern United States. And that pattern could hold for a while. So when will be the next change after high pressure returns this weekend? We'll talk about that as we go through the podcast. Isolated thunderstorms, there they were yesterday. Great shot there of what you would say is that classic isolated high plains thunderstorms. Not a lot of them out there, but a few popped up as moisture began to increase again, and some of them produced rain. It's just that they were really small little systems that led to a beautiful sundown across the region yesterday. But we also had this weekend, more smoke. Idaho fires in particular. Idaho is the biggest exporter of smoke, has been for a while, and will be here for the next few days. The smoke across the west looks like this as of very early this morning. You can see the fires, especially the fires in this area of Idaho right here, still producing a lot of smoke. The satellite imagery this morning, pretty interesting. When you look at the major features, this little guy right here is a low pressure system that's going to come through up and over the high pressure ridge and down like this, bringing in a little bit of shower and thunderstorm activity. Notice this swirl of clouds out here in the western side of the Gulf of Alaska. This is just the time of year we'll start looking up in the Pacific again. We're into the late summer, headed to early fall, and this is where we start to get our weather. For the last 3 months or so, we've been talking about mostly this part of the country here, where the subtropical moisture comes in and out and back and forth. So it's less about this and more about this in the weeks going forward. The water vapor this morning is showing that there is moisture associated with this system. So you can see really there's more of a Pacific connection with this system than one coming up out of the subtropics. And that is exactly what you expect to see as you go into the month of September. There's the trough. It's not a big one, but as you saw in the satellite imagery, it's got weather with it. This is by noon today. It's going to head east, southeast, and take a path like this. So it's going to sweep through the northern and central Rockies and into the northern high plains. And there's the moisture. So you can see a lot of green with this system and the comma shape with the low. You can see the counterclockwise circulation bringing that moisture in. And this is by noon tomorrow. There's even a few patches of blue where precipitable water is getting pretty impressive. Now, keep in mind, precipitable water amounts, when you take them to percent of normal, it's a bit different in September and October to see the darker green and blue because naturally this is a drier time of year. So it's not apples to apples to have blue in September over you as compared to June, July, or August. Nonetheless, it's still a situation where the atmosphere is moist and the Storm Prediction Center has the active thunderstorm activity in those darker green areas in particular. So there's some marginal severe threat, mainly due to really strong wind gusts. And this is what it looks like getting a little bit more widespread further south and east for the day on Wednesday. And if we go through the next 3 days, today, tomorrow, and Thursday, the precipitation forecast looks like this. So it's nothing to write home about, but there's going to be fairly widespread shower and thunderstorm coverage in some areas. It's showing even here along the Front Range. A little bit of a pickup, some moisture in northwestern Wyoming, maybe even northeastern Wyoming as well. But you can see we're seeing the elimination or the big reduction of that subtropical moisture feed into here. It's more suppressed down into the Texas Gulf Coast region. Now, behind the front, temperatures tomorrow will be noticeably cooler. These are the temperature anomalies for your day on Wednesday. The heat will be along the west coast, cooler in the Intermountain West, and this coolness will overspread the region heading south and east of the divide. By Thursday, we see the high pressure ridge build and extend back up into western Canada, allowing that trough to start to build to the south and east into the Midwest and into the Corn Belt region. This is where that low will end up being by Thursday morning, weakening, but really kind of getting absorbed by this bigger trough up here. This configuration will build and will grow and will be holding late in the week, basically Friday and into the upcoming weekend. These are the temperature anomalies by Thursday, spreading out further east, areas along and east of the divide, quite warm along the west coast and into the interior again. And this heat will spread east by the weekend as the high pressure ridge will build back east. So what we have is high pressure building back in. We await the next little trough off the west coast. This is a pretty impressive trough here in the east. So we're going to see temperatures go well below average this weekend across the Great Lakes, the Midwest, the northeastern United States, even down in the southeastern United States, while the heat will be in the west. And you can really see that. Look at that contrast. This is by Saturday. Very cool in the nation's midsection and east. Very warm in western Canada, the Pacific Northwest, the Rockies, the Great Basin, into California and into Arizona. So basically, we kind of go back to where we were this weekend after this little bit of a cool down that we're going to get here over the next couple of days. Now, this pattern is going to hold until late next week. The next series of Pacific troughs kind of come in, knock down the high pressure ridge, and the ridge weakens, and then by the middle to the end of next week is when we see the next cool down. So from this weekend, well into early next week, there'll be very little weather happening. However, towards the middle of the month, things start to get a little more interesting. The Pacific starts to see a stronger jet stream. We show you this in the spring and the winter season, where we start to see these black lines closer together. We get a stronger, more active Pacific jet stream. This helps initiate storm systems and frontal systems across the North Pacific into the Gulf of Alaska. They just become more frequent, and it starts to initiate the change of seasons. So we're likely going to see by late next week the frontal systems begin to push inland again from the Pacific Northwest. There's really no more good connection of the moisture down there anymore, at least for a bit. And then by the weekend of the 14th and 15th, this is pretty far out, we see the trough wants to go more into the interior west, and we see high pressure wanting to build off the west coast. Not 100% sure this is going to come to fruition or not. So we're talking 300 hours out from now. So take this with a grain of salt. But this makes sense based on what we're seeing changing up in the North Pacific towards the middle of the month. So that will be the next bigger push of cooler air, early fall kind of weather right around the middle part of September. And we'll just keep an eye on it. In the meantime, enjoy some pretty nice September weather in the coming days. We'll see you tomorrow.